Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this council meeting of May 30th, 2022 to order, and apologies for the technical delays this evening. I would like to ask everyone to stand behind their chairs as we have the national anthem, and please address the flag.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to begin this evening by reading a safety notice, and it certainly is a pleasure to look out and see members of the public joining us this evening. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the council chambers to the nearest exit, which is in that direction, through the chamber doors, and obey all instructions given. And if assistance is required, please see the clerk. And the clerk this evening, who will be providing those instructions, is to my right. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of the town hall. Also, for those who may wish to view the proceedings at a later date, the Town of Lincoln Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Attawandaronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Lincoln stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. All members of council are present this evening. We also have senior staff available to speak to their area of expertise in person and, as you can see, remotely. Additionally, we have representatives from Community Care of West Niagara joining us in council chambers to provide a presentation, and our regional counselor will probably be joining us. He's usually with us. I just don't happen to see him at the moment. Do members have any amendments to the order of the agenda? There being none, are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Reimer, I see that you have declared conflicts of interest. Would you please go ahead?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. In tonight's agenda, I'm declaring interest in item 17.3, which is a bylaw amendment 2022-38, and also in item 17.4, the bylaw is 2022-39-Z574. In both those bylaw amendments, the applicant is a customer of the company I work for.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll move on to item number 7. Councillors, do members have any announcements? Please remember you have a limit of 3 items. Go ahead, Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. I have 2 announcements. The Heritage Advisory Committee is very pleased to announce that we will be doing an interpretive plaque unveiling this Friday at 1 p.m. And the ceremony is at the former Jordan train station at 2818 Prince William in Jordan Station. And also this Saturday, the Heritage House Tour is happening from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. There are tickets available at Action Print, Heritage Gift Shop, and the Grimsby Museum. And that runs from 1 to 4. So it's always a great event, and it's put on by the Lincoln Archives. Thank you, Mary Ston.
Thank you very much. I see no other lights on, so we'll move on. Thank you very much, Councillor. We have no proclamations this evening. We have no recognition and achievements this evening. We'll move on now to item 10, which is delegations and presentations. And we have one presentation this evening from the Community Care of West Niagara regarding their 2021 year in review. We're very happy to have you with us this evening to bring us up to date on the state of our community as it attends to your prime mandate. In attendance from CCWN, we have Elizabeth Klassen, Board President. We have Dave Thompson, Board Member, and I believe that I see Stuart Reimer as well. Thank you very much, both of you, for attending. And we also have Carol Freur, the Executive Director. I was going to call you Councillor Thompson. Mr. Thompson, are you presenting this evening?
Elizabeth's presenting first.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Please come forward. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship, councillors, staff, and the residents of Lincoln. I want to thank you for accepting our request for a delegation to the town of Lincoln. My name is Elizabeth Klassen, and I am the president of the Board of Directors of CCWN, Community Care of West Niagara. I first had the opportunity to be introduced to Community Care of West Niagara when I volunteered at a food drive about 5 years ago. And after seeing the great work of CCWN staff fulfilling the needs within our community, I was drawn in and joined the board as a director. Having become involved, I've been able to see firsthand how successful CCWN is at meeting the needs of those that are in the community, as well as obtaining supports within the community to join alongside the work that they do. Accountability and transparency are two values that I admire about CCWN. Working alongside our staff as a director and as a volunteer has given me firsthand opportunity to experience the generosity of our community and the great responsibility of Community Care of West Niagara. The town of Lincoln's community vision speaks of our town as a place to grow, a place to prosper, and a place to belong. Similarly, our mandate, as articulated in our recent completed and ambitious strategic plan, sets out the objectives and actions that will help us to achieve our vision and to continue our 55-year-old contribution to positively shaping our community. CCWN's mandate likewise supports the various declared town pillars, and particularly, as expressed in our values and guiding principle, the idea of maintaining a vibrant and resilient community. Our mission speaks to providing essential services and support to Lincoln residents who are facing economic hardship, and our goal is to bridge our clients as they strive for balance and self-sufficiency. So could we move to slide 2? Our strategic plan identified the benefits of initiating a satellite operation outside of Beamsville to increase community connection and accessibility. But it also served to further our formal response and call to action as a result of COVID-19. Our board recently unanimously decided to continue operations at the Vineland site for the upcoming year and would welcome any data from the town that would constructively inform the board on how to best position CCWN for community responsiveness in the years to come. We highly value our affiliation with the town of Lincoln, with whom we share the privilege and weighty accountability of being responsible stewards of our community resources and precious confidence. As members of CCWN Board of Directors, we've not only had a fiduciary responsibility for open and transparent governance, but also we are deeply committed to embracing and furthering change within integrity. I would like to highlight that we are the sole Lincoln Direct Member Food Bank recognized by Feed Ontario, which maintains that there's a very stringent process that needs to be adhered to in maintaining the cold chain. CCWN is not willing to compromise client confidence regarding quality assurance. As the only affiliate member food bank in Lincoln, also recognized by Food Banks Canada, CCWN takes our ethical food banking code very seriously, and we're always seeking opportunities for continuous improvement. Hopefully you've received the most recent edition of CCWN's agency overview and had the opportunity to examine the documentation, as it has data that will benefit the town and our shared stakeholders. It's our hope that you'll find it a useful resource to increase public knowledge of who we are and what we do, but also why we do what we do. So if we could go on to the next slide, I would love to share some conservative data that we've gathered while taking a closer look at hunger in West Niagara. Our mission is to provide essential services and support to families and individuals in Lincoln who are facing economic hardship. Our goal is to bring the journey of our vulnerable as they strive to restore balance and self-sufficiency. During the year ending June 2022, we have served 718 individuals from our satellite location in Vineland, compared to the previous year of 585 individuals. We are now running 14 programs and events from our Vineland location, compared to the four previous year. We provided 40,000 meals from the Vineland location, compared to the previous year, where we provided 18,000 meals. Slide 3. We have seen a significant economic impact by the pandemic recently and expect a continued need for support in months ahead. Housing and rent costs are concerning for our clientele, and inflation is impacting our community significantly. We see our role growing significantly over the course of the next year. In aligning our agency with the Town of Lincoln through our strategic plan, we are hoping to have your continued support with our efforts to assist in the town, making the Town of Lincoln a place to grow, a place to prosper, and a place to belong. And I'm going to hand it over to Dave Thompson now.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors, staff, residents of Lincoln. My name is Dave Thompson. I'm humbled to be and honored to be one of the board members for CCWN. I want to begin by thanking you for allowing Elizabeth and I to share with you this evening the impact that CCWN is making daily in our community. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge the contributions, the generosity that individuals, businesses, stakeholders, and of course, volunteers in our community make that allow us to thrive and serve this community. CCWN will be 55 years young on September 9th, 2022. And we are excited that the mayor, the council, and the community are able to maybe help us celebrate this fantastic milestone. As a part of the celebration, the board felt it was really important that we communicate this to council, staff, and the community as a whole. So that's why we're here sharing this with you tonight. We also have a few asks of the council and the mayor this evening, but I also come bearing an opportunity, so sit easy. Some of the asks have already been green-lighted, for which we thank you. We really appreciate that, and we look forward to thoughtful consideration of the others. The asks were as follows. If you want to go to the next slide, the next one after that, please, was to appear as a delegation this evening. We've also requested the town council proclaim September 9th, 2022, Community Care of West Niagara Day. We've also requested a flag raising ceremony at Town Hall here with our freshly minted CCWN flag in honor of that CCWN Day on September 9th. And we've invited the mayor and all of council to join us at our newly renovated facility in Beamsville for a grand reopening on September 9th as well. So we'd certainly be honored to have your participation in this very important community celebration. But that's not all. I'm sure you guys want to know about the opportunity I spoke about. So after much thought, brainstorming, board deliberation, and conversations with community leaders, we've decided to step up and assume an additional leadership role in our community. We wish to embark on an exciting opportunity that I'm certain that you're going to want to be a part of. We're proposing the creation of the Lincoln Nonprofit Sector Leadership Roundtable. Julie, if you can go back a slide, that would be really great. Thank you. So you're probably scratching your head saying, oh goodness, what on earth is that? Well, I'm going to give you some of the details in a very short period of time. So we propose to engage the leadership from as many nonprofit organizations as possible who serve the Lincoln community. We want them to come together to share open and transparent dialogue about how to best serve our community's needs. And all nonprofits are welcome. We know that council operates under 4 pillars, which guide their council priorities derived from the strategic plan that's created at the beginning of each term of council. Lincoln's this term were welcoming, connected, vibrant, and resilient community. Our leadership has compiled thoughts regarding the context of how these roundtable discussions will fit into 4 pillars that we believe will enhance, propel forward, and ready Lincoln's nonprofit sector organizations for efficient, effective, and cooperative operations in the future. I'm going to go through the pillars very quickly because I know we're short on time. The first pillar is increased social intelligence, which we will facilitate a dialogue surrounding how we can strengthen and maximize our collective community impact and increase sustainability for our unique nonprofit community while gaining a more complete understanding of the needs in our community. Pillar 2, fostering sectoral trust and support. So we create an environment to allow developing of trust relationships between nonprofit organizations. At the same time, building the public trust toward the sector by highlighting our open and transparent governance models, our integrity and accountability. Pillar number 3 is mutual accountability. We'll generate an atmosphere where we're all willing to communicate openly, to take risks, and we're all committed to having those difficult conversations. And the 4th pillar is leader-to-leader mentoring, where we'll create a space that empowers and fosters inspiration for all the organizational leaders through thought, leadership, and innovation, creating a professional development opportunity for all who attend, sharpening their skills through insights from other local leaders. So on behalf of the board of CCWN, I'm excited to offer this invitation to the town of Lincoln. Come and join us in this endeavor and participate in this leadership community. We feel it's of the utmost importance that the town of Lincoln be an active partner in this organization. So by joining us in this future thinking collaboration, it'll tap into the extraordinary leadership within this community, the leadership shown by the mayor and this council and town staff, highlighting the dedication and commitment and to the betterment of the well-being of our residents in the town of Lincoln into the future. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Thank you very much, Elizabeth Clausen. That was very interesting, and I do recall, Carol, the first few years that you came forward to provide us with updates, and I can see that there's been considerable movement here, particularly in the last few years. So thank you for this, and thank you, Dave, for the challenge. So I'm going to open up the floor so that council can ask questions, and I'd just like to alert, in particular, the CAO. We may have something, CAO Kirkopoulos, that we may have to refer to you. So I see that you're there, so that's good. Any comments? I see 2 names, 3 names. So, Councillor Timmers, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mary Easton. Thank you all for coming tonight and for your presentation. And this report is fantastic. I think your asks are something that are going to be pretty easy to participate in. I'm extremely excited this leadership roundtable. I think it's a long time in coming to get, you know, the nonprofit sectors together around the same table. I think that's a very positive and very much needed step. I couldn't help but get excited to think about that, to have people around the table, because, you know, when you're trying to pull all the data together and the different arms that are out there, and this would be a really great, bringing the minds together and the experts and the data. It makes me think about our community housing and homelessness, I'll start over. Housing and Homelessness Community Partnership Advisory Committee. And I think the outcome from that table will be extremely valuable to that committee moving forward. And so I just want to thank you. I don't have a specific question, just really excited. And thank you very much for coming tonight. Thank you, Mary Ston.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I'll move on now to Councillor Ranjima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions, and one is just earlier on in the presentation, your slide said that 69% of the clients of Community Care of West Niagara are females. So I'm wondering, does this mean that these females are typically there representing their families on behalf of their families, or are these females with no families? So that's my question.
Yes, come up, Carol, please, thank you.
Through you, Mary Ston, to Councillor Regima. So we looked at all of the individual unique clients and said how many of them are female. So they go from birth to 85 years old, and they're counted once, of which 69% of them are female. So within different households, there could be more than one female, but it's represented in the 69%. Does that make sense?
Not completely sure.
Okay.
I understand that.
So out of all of the clients that we serve, 69% of them are female, regardless of their age.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I believe, I'm trying to remember the exact numbers of households, but the households might have more individuals in each household, so they're not all lone, single individuals. I do think we had a statistic that talked about who were the lone parents on the slide. I just don't remember it offhand right now.
Okay.
So we'll take a peek.
So I think that answers my question. I guess what you're saying is that you would have a contact person, and typically that contact person, whether they live alone or whether they're there on behalf of an entire family, are females.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when the female comes in and reports on their household, whether they're lone or not, we find out the family dynamic as well. So you would come in and talk and say, I've got 3 people in my family, and we would find out what the family dynamic is so that we can represent age categories and education and gender and that type of thing. So that's how we get our data.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Okay, Carol, if you don't mind, maybe, that's probably a good place for you. Thank you very much.
I do that.
I'm trying to bring you on, Councillor Russell, and I'm pressing as hard as I can.
Madam Mayor, I have one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And my question is to the presentation that Mr. Thompson gave, and the request for participation in the roundtable. So it's said that there are 30 or more nonprofits in Lincoln that could be participating in this. I'm wondering if you can be a little bit more specific as to what you see the town of Lincoln's role being.
So with the town of Lincoln, what we thought you would be a really great source of contacts if we weren't able to source them independently. A number of nonprofit agencies come to you for support or assistance or grants and whatnot. I have a pretty good handle on them, but over the past few years, the climate has really changed where we haven't been out networking the same way that we were before. And the list that, let's say, through Helping Hands with Employment Help Center, maybe it's not as up to date and we don't want to miss anyone. So it could be a nonprofit group that might be a parent advocacy group that you guys would know about versus the Minor Hockey Association, to Jillian's Place. There's some known groups, but we just want to be all encompassing, and then it might be an option again, if it pleases you, for you to help us fan it out through your channels, because this would be quite an endeavor for us, and it would be great to have the town's endorsement and support for us to do some type of letter of invitation and have you guys through your communications team, for example, help us get it in front of the people who will make the decisions. What is unique about this nonprofit leadership table is really it's around that, trying to get the leaders of the groups to come together and cross-pollinate and interface, because the frontline workers continue to do it. It's more or less executive directors and board representatives to come together and be more of that think tank and look at directionally what are we going to do. Where are the gaps? Are there some nice cross-pollinations? And how do we maximize the community resources that our donors provide us? It just, that's sort of the core of it. And we do have a few other potential asks, but maybe that's something we can talk about if the town would like to move forwards and see what your appetite is on that.
Okay, so the role would be sort of assisting, facilitating, helping to communicate the goals, et cetera.
Yes, and it would be great, again, depending on where you see yourselves. One of the things that I think Elizabeth talked about is being responsible stewards of our community and public trust and the resources that they give us. This may be something where a member of the town of Lincoln would like to be on the leadership table to help us figure out how to have those conversations. Some of them could be very beneficial. Maybe we can do some cross-grant proposals. There may be opportunities for us to look at Constitution and bylaws to see how we're harmonizing. We've got the Nonprofit Charities Act that's requiring us to make significant changes over the next couple of years, and so I think that there's a real leadership role and a facilitative role, so that the town has confidence that the nonprofit community locally in your backyard has the support to make those constitutional changes before it's required.
Great, that helps a lot, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Just
you,
a
Madam
little
Mayor.
bit in my lip brain.
Thank you very much. I think you should stay there.
Okay. If I may, through you, Mayor Easton, just acknowledge that we also have two other members of our board. So we have Phil Rose, who's our past president, and Richard Gark, who's our current treasurer, but has been our past president. So he came back for
Thank you. Thank
for
you very much.
another time around, as well as Stuart.
I'm very sorry, gentlemen. I didn't recognize either of you, and it is my habit to come out and welcome people, but I'm afraid it was a very generic welcome. So now we know who you are. Thank you very much for attending. Thanks, Carol.
Yep.
Okay, we're moving on now to Councillor Russell. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Carol. Again, I think this is a great presentation as well, and my question was along the lines of Councillor Majima's. Will you have a formal governance structure for this? I don't want to call it, I'm not sure if it's a committee that you're forming. Again, are you going to have a more formal structure that maybe you can present, or just give some clear delineation of roles and responsibilities for people, just so that if there are staff requirements or if there is a council representative requirement, that we have something more tangible?
So I think that to your question, yes, I think we have some loose ideas around vision, mission, values. We also have some thoughts around what the terms of reference would be. I'm not exactly sure if how deep we should go if it's going to be a collaborative effort. You don't really want to have a canned approach where there's not a lot of room for people to sink their teeth in and see themselves involved in. But I think it's important to have some type of framework to begin with, so people know what they're getting into. So we have that sort of outlined and open to negotiation, because that's what it's about, being a good partner. And I think that once we have even...
And again, I think whatever, again, will eventually come to the surface, it will be very fluid. And again, I think you want to keep it very light in the beginning, because you will have some sort of migration towards whenever these new ideas are created to come to the forefront. So
absolutely. Again. I would imagine like the task force that you were speaking about, you sort of go in with this beautiful vision, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that, and people say, that's great, kind of like what you have here, but do you think we can move into this area, because this has been an untapped, place of discussion, and what you thought you were going to have at the beginning is not necessarily what you've actually finalized, but it's a beautiful thing, so very open to that.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is Councillor Mikulik. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton, through you to Carol. Thank you, thank your board, thank everyone that helps your organization out. It's, especially nowadays, I'm sure you're seeing an uptick in the numbers, given the times that we're living in. Question I have is, there's a mention of programs in Vineland. I'm curious about this programs in Vineland. Last year there was 4 programs, this year there's 14.
Yes.
This is a question just to get to know your organization a little bit. What are these programs? Give me some examples of what these programs are and the 10 extra ones this year from last year.
Absolutely. I'm just going to move this up a bit because it seems like I'm going to be here for a minute. So Community Care of West Niagara has a stable of over 30 different programs. Out of the 30 programs, some of them we do and they are all us. Other ones we do in partnership with other organizations, and we call those the knowledge brokers. So for example, legal assistance. We don't run that program, but we make it available to our clients. So that's an example of a partnership. And then there are other programs that we do at arm's length, for example, the bicycle program. So out of these, I think we're at 32 or 33 programs. We started in year 1 by doing just 4 programs because it was a brand new thing to us. We didn't know if there would be any uptake there. So we took the 4 highest uptake programs that we have running out of our Beamsville location, which has always been serving all of Lincoln. But because of the COVID restrictions and a few other things, we thought it would be important for us to have a presence in East Lincoln and started to deliver them outside of the Vineland location. And so that would have been our core Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and our monthly food giving programs, and our free shelf, which is open to people on a regular basis. We ask them to come once a week. Sometimes they come more than that, whatever the need is. So we started with those basic ones at the Vineland location, just to let people know that we are here for them, and for them to get used to us being in community. And during year 1, what we started to do is just have interface with the clients who went there. A number of them were new. Some of them were people from the area who had issues coming into Beamsville because they were out of job and whatnot. And so we were asking them, well, what other programs should we be running out of this particular location? And in full transparency, I don't know if you're aware, I'm going to make an assumption you are, that we've been under construction as well. So there's been a bit of a displacement opportunity for us to be able to run some of the programs in our second year over there while we're just not open and safe for people to come in when we're under construction and having jackhammering and so on. We have moved our programming up to 14 there. I can go through more if you would like. So we have our income tax program that's running out of there. We're actually doing a mock voting learning program tomorrow out of the satellite. We have our regular Hampers and Angels that will be there. We also do the back to school program. We'll be prepping it and having it out of the Vineland location. Ride for Refuge, which is our fundraising event, but it's an open and participatory event in October that will be running out of the Vineland location as well. So just a real quick and dirty. I just didn't know how deep you wanted me to go into. We do assessments for utility relief. We do assessments for recreation assistance. So what we're doing is making it available to people in Vineland so that they have access to it in their backyards.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
I I think what I'm hoping to hear and perhaps is occurring is like educational to help these folks learn or acquire skills or talents to better their ability to earn more or seek ways to.
So you bring up a really good point, Councillor Mikulik. What we do is we partner with the knowledge brokers in those areas. So let's say we have clients that come to us and we see that there's an opportunity for them to learn more about budgeting. We're not budget experts. We have an idea of what a budget looks like and where there may be some opportunity for growth and efficiencies, but we actually get the one-on-one support with the specialists. When it comes to education, the public library is actually one of our partners, and we have them come in and do a number of programs, or we hook them up with the literacy local literacy council or the seniors IT programs. So I think what we do is we make sure we're not stepping on other people's toes, because in the private sector, I think it's really great to have what you would call some healthy competition where, you know, you're offering the same products and you're offering the same services to people and you know, you get it out there. What we don't want to do is unnecessary duplication of service. So if there's a gap, we'll try to fill it. But if there's somebody out there who's better at it than us, we're not looking to do that. We're looking to make a partnership with them. So if you had, like, you know, canning classes, we would partner with Cave Springs or the Niagara Garden Network, for example.
Yeah,
Okay.
my hope is that there's educational thought or educational piece to this to perhaps you know, allow these individuals to earn more money and not be dependent on, you know, this sort of service provided. You know, that's what I'm hoping for.
Right.
Whether that's possible.
So where we go with
You
that
would
is
know
we
best.
link them up with the Employment Help Center, because they
Perfect.
would be the specialists when it comes to job readiness or retraining. We do educate them in areas like RESPs, if they have access to tax credits. Just so that we're clear, what we're trying to do is meet people where they are and help them build on that, and then whatever avenues of opportunity, we funnel them in those areas. So if there's an opportunity for us to do education, we do education and we do advocacy, but it's more around the individual learning how to advocate for themselves out in community and to know what the programs and the resources are. We have leveraged bursaries for people to go back to school, adults going back to learn a new vocation or a new trade, for example. But I got five board members here. I don't think we'll ever get into being the ones providing that education. We will facilitate it.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. And I'll turn now to Councillor Brunet, and then I see that Councillor Pachariva has his hand up, and we'll go there next. Go ahead, Councillor Brunet. I guess I have to do that. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Through you to Carol, and thank you to the board members. Thank you for the presentation, and I think this is great. I think this roundtable is something that's, as someone already mentioned, is long overdue. Carol, you used the words stepping on toes, and believe me, this is not a loaded question, but it's kind of a question that I think is important to go down. You know, when I look at your website, you know, you guys have been doing food drives along with the Lions Club for 33 years, for a long, long time. You guys have been around 55 years, 33 doing food drives, with a lot of, you know, those proceeds going back to Community Care West Niagara and Perlator Tackle Hunger. I have begun to speak to a number of people. I think anybody that's lived in the community for 40, 50 years, they kind of understand what's happening out there when it comes to organizations similar to yours. I look at this past weekend and I couldn't help but see signs around the community that said food drive. I've had people start to say to me, you know, what's going on? Like, who's asking for this? Like, what's happening? I'm concerned about the competition, and when you talk about, you know, stepping on toes, I'm just trying to understand for someone that's new in the community, when it comes to food drives, like, you know, what is the message that your organization would like to send to people that are looking at making contributions?
Well, I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that right now there's so many emergencies out there from Ukraine. We'll use that as an example. A lot of people fleeing Ukraine and coming here. We've had a number of phone calls from individuals who have, 4, 6, 8 people staying in their homes just trying to help family. That would probably tip the scales for them. Our need for food has increased, but proportionately, we've been able to leverage a good amount of the foods that we required for our community through our partnerships with Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada. We also have the Food Rescue Program that was initiated through Second Harvest. And speaking to food drives, we really don't want to tax and to tire the community. Lincoln is unbelievably generous, and so we really try to keep our asks very tight. The annual food drive, as you know, the Lions Food Drive usually yields from 25 to 35,000 pounds in one day. That's from doorstep to sorted and in our warehouse, and we don't take that for granted. We do our Christmas program. It's an awareness program, and we do ask for assistance with food donations, but it's more or less around the generosity. Can you help us with families? The Great Holiday Food Drive is a new walk-on for us, and that was done through the consortium of food banks who are also aligned with Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada. So we had a December food drive. What we did is we focused on the community involvement and support part. We were very appreciative. We got 8,000 pounds of food through them. We typically don't do a big push at Easter time. It's fairly light from January and February and into March. And then when we get into August, we really focused on this, the back-to-school programs. So in our sort of calendar of events, we really try to stay fairly close to those. Now, there will be third-party events. People will do a food drive at the school and through a sporting association, and we are very, very grateful for that, because over the course of a year, we'll bring in about 140,000 pounds worth of food, and we give that back to the community. And there's about a 2 or 3 month cycle from the time it comes in to the time it's back into people's cupboards and hopefully in their bellies. So what I would suggest, Tony, is that if you have people who are interested in being community involved, would like to know more about Community Care of West Niagara, we're going to be open for business for tours. I'd like for people to be able to see the facility, understand how we manage our food. People think of us as sort of the food bank, and it conjures an idea, but it's a whole inventory management system, and how do we respectfully make sure that the food you give me today gets out the door and onto somebody's table tomorrow. And I'm not going to ask you for cereal if I have cereal up to my teeth. I'm going to ask you for something else. So our list of most wanted items get changed regularly, and we just ask people to contribute to the level of they capably can. We don't want people to have undue hardship to help us out.
Thanks very much for that, Folsom, and thanks for everyone attending tonight and all the work you do.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship.
joining us?
Yeah, and to Councillor Renchman and Councillor Russell's questions about the makeup of the leadership roundtable, I think it's, the premise is, and again, we're taking something that's been already out there. I'm pretty sure our CAO, I'm pretty sure the City of Hamilton did this, and Mr. Kirkopoulos might have had some involvement with it, and it's about getting like-minded groups together and having a discussion so you don't duplicate services, right? You're trying to serve the vulnerable community, and everyone has a role to play, and it's about facilitating and finiting that role. So maybe our CAO can shed a little more light on his past experience and how we can maybe make it a made in Lincoln solution like we always like to do.
Thanks very much, Councillor Pachariva. And for anyone who's not aware, Council Patriva is also a member of the Community Care of West Niagara Board. I'm going to turn now to CAO Mike Kirkopoulos. And Mike, would you please provide us some general comments? And I'm going to go so far as to ask you if you would make some recommendations about how we can move forward.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to Council Patriva as well. And it's great to see both the board and the administrative leadership of Community Care of West Niagara here this evening presenting this information, because I think it's always beneficial from a number of perspectives, including just destigmatizing, I think, the conversation that we always need to have around those in our community that require a little bit of help, that require a helping hand, or just that are in need at various times. I am a little familiar with anchor institution tables. Council Patriva is correct. When I was with the City of Hamilton a number of years ago, we did launch what we called at that time a Hamilton Anchor Institution Leadership Roundtable. So it's great to see that a number of other communities and institutions are taking leadership roles, and kudos to CCWN for coming forward with this. I think the presentation that was brought forward and the diagram really does encompass the various elements of this. I know in Hamilton's case, there was a focus around housing and health. There was a focus on community hubs, and by community hubs, really that meant areas around health and the social determinants of health, recreation, education, and social services. And then just a community and common vision. All of us as major institutions, and I look at the 30 or so that have been highlighted in the presentation, while community care has not named each of those 30, I think we could all go down the list and start identifying a number of not-for-profits in our community that are there to serve our residents. And a lot of them are working in our organizations. A lot of them are partners with us as the municipality. So I think the municipality playing a role in that is critical. And so really, I think when you look at it in terms of next steps, I think governance will be important as we kind of go down the road and flesh that out. And, I appreciate the comments made by Councillor Russell on that particular piece. Definitely would be willing, both myself and any staff, to participate in that. Again, I am a little familiar with them. I think these are great tables. And I think the list may grow. I think not-for-profit is a general as a general catch-all, a general umbrella. But to me, to make these successful, I've always said, I think, we need to open the tent as much as possible. All of us collectively, I believe, are responsible for budgets. We're responsible for the well-being of our community, and we're responsible for the well-being of people, first and foremost. And I think if we can't come together and identify one or two or three areas of focus, and start solving problems and addressing the needs, then I think we all need to look from within and determine what is it we're doing. Because I think, again, collectively, it is these types of tables that are important for us to facilitate progress on key priority issues that we all have.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Councillor Russell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back one more time, and I'm not sure if Carol or one of the representatives want to jump back up, but just a question. Again, Councillor Patriva mentioned something about, again, the elimination of duplication of services. And I'm wondering, again, obviously we have, again, two major players in the town of Lincoln as far as the types of services that CCWN provides. And I'm just wondering if instead of trying to eliminate or remove that duplication of services, we should be maximizing the services that may be duplicated or not amongst all the parties that are at the table. And I'm just wondering, and maybe we'll go back to that governance point that our CAO mentioned, but in terms of relationship management between, again, those two key partners, how do we foresee that happening in a healthy, vibrant way where the community as a whole benefits as opposed to any individual group?
So just to speak to that in a general sense, what we're trying to do is make sure that we are supportive of all agencies in the best interest of our constituents. So regardless of the name of the agency or what they do, if they are specialists in areas, what we want to do is highlight that. And there are areas that obviously we specialize in, we have for 55 years. But I'll give you just an example that maybe will help bring it home a little bit. So when we look at Jillian's Place, their mandate is to serve individuals, women and children who have suffered family violence. We see people who suffer family violence all the time. As a matter of fact, about 68% of the individuals that we serve, the adults, have openly disclosed that they have suffered violence of some sort. Instead of us sort of saying, okay, well, how can we help you with that? We want to refer you to the best and the most, I guess, savvy individual in that area of specialty. And that's all we're saying is if there's a gap in service, let's fill it and let's figure out what organizations are best and most closely aligned to it so that we don't drift from mission, not saying that we do or we don't, or other agencies do or don't. But this is really an opportunity for the leadership to really take a look at, are we staying within mission? Do we need to readjust our mission? If we want to readjust our mission, if there's a gap, does it fit with us? Or do we want to do it because we want to do it? Either way, I think those are the necessary and opportunity conversations we can have that I think Dave Thompson alluded to. So I can't really answer that because what we're trying to do is bring that type of conversation to the table with all of the nonprofits. So if we were to get into, I don't know, managing affordable housing units in Lincoln, well, we wouldn't just necessarily decide that on our own. I think it would be great to bring it to the nonprofit leadership table and say, are we the right people to do that? Is there a place for us in that? And if not, is there a supportive role? So that we're having these conversations at the front end and we can start steering the charitable sector, which is the third sector. We have our public sector, we have our corporate sector, and the social benefit or the nonprofit sector. So as a sector in Lincoln, it has a huge, huge impact on the quality of life of the people that we serve. And we just think the nonprofit leadership table can guide that and bring to fruition some of these questions and these opportunities for dialogue that I don't think any one agency should be having. I think it's a more holistic and organic conversation.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm going to go to Mr. Kirkopoulos again. Go ahead, Mike.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the comments that Councillor Russell highlighted. And if I think from my perspective, when you look at the number of agencies, I don't think it's one or the other doing the work, Councillor. I think you're correct. I think it's one and the other, and how do we work together? If I look at all the agencies, and I'm just naming a few off the top of my head, whether they be Jillian's Place, Community Care, Village of Hope, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Employment Health Center, Past Zone, the library in terms of what it does, Civic Connect, the YWCA. I think collectively, as we start sitting around tables, what we may find is that, for example, and I'm hypothesizing here, children are well serviced in terms of the programs we have, maybe around mental health, for instance, but maybe we're missing something for men and women who suffer from mental health. And similarly, if you look at some of the programs that may be out there for women and children, maybe we're seeing other areas that are potentially missing. So I think it's also, for me, more looking at not just the duplication of service potentially, but also what's missing and where do we see that void in our community that we may be able to provide services, and who's got that expertise to provide that service. Someone may have that expertise and instead is focused in one area and says, you know what, I can really pick up that element of where we're seeing need in our community, and I think helps fill that gap. So I think it's not one or the other, but one and the other.
Thanks very much, Mike. I'm going to go now to Councillor Reimer. Go ahead, Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Mayor Eason. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, members of the board, for coming here tonight. I just wanted to bring up the last part of Mr. Thompson's presentation, that we don't get hung up on or concentrating on the duplication of services too much. There's 4 huge pillars here: mutual accountability, foster sectoral trust and support, leader-to-leader mentoring. Anytime we can make better leaders, I believe everybody has an opportunity to be a leader, and if we can make better leaders, our community benefits from it. So I would want to make sure that we're looking as the duplication of services and filling in gaps, I think, is huge. But these are big, high horsepower pillars, and I think those are the ones that are going to drive this. I'm very excited about this. I think this is a great report, and I appreciate you coming tonight, and thank you for starting this conversation. Thank you, Marison.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you very much. This duplication of services is starting to intrigue me a little bit, and I think it's a great idea to bring everyone to the table and share ideas and share thoughts and, pool resources. What happens though? Who determines, and this could go to staff, or this could be a general question to be looked at in the future should this move forward, who determines the gaps? Who has that say? It's everyone is equal at a table. There's going to be some strength one way or the other. And I look at this similar to with certain sporting organizations within the town of Lincoln, where there's a hoped for amalgamation, but it just doesn't happen. And which one is, it almost turns into a competition. Is there any fear of that occurring, or is this just going to be, we've tried, we'll keep the door open, we'll keep the conversation open? How does this look?
Well, I think,
from that perspective?
I think just to your point, Mike, the whole idea is to find common ground in the best interest of all of the residents that we serve individually as an agency, whatever our missions are. So that is the common ground, is we want to do right by the people that we serve and not put them at the center of any discussion around real or perceived competition. What we want to do is grow the strength of the sector. The sector has been under tremendous pressure for the past 2, and then we're going into economic hardship for lots of people over the next 6, 12, 18 months. So I'm looking far out. How is our charitable sector going to continue to be strong and responsive? Some people are going back to normal, and we're just bracing ourselves. The pandemic was one thing. The aftermath of the pandemic is what I'm trying to personally every day prepare for when I go in and sit at my desk and say, what am I going to do today? And we have half of our leadership table here, and they're very motivated to look longer term, further down the road, around how do we as a sector collaborate, and how do we get more mileage out of the community investment that comes to us, as opposed to trying to pull the sector apart. Through grant writing, we are already pitted against each other and competing for money. What we don't want to be doing is doing that when we come in and report to work every day. So just know that in the spirit of what we're offering here, we're not the decision makers. We're just saying we are willing to come to the table and bring people to the table to have this conversation on behalf of this community, so that we're growing our community beyond the immediate needs that are presenting. So, and do you have something?
I just had one small thing to say. We really, in doing this, would like to emphasize our strengths and create greater transparency and accountability as a group, the entire sector, and so that there are less concerns or questions and greater confidence in our charitable organizations. And I think we'll draw more people in. We've been living in a very generous community, and we see it every day when we're working at CCWN as volunteers and staff, and we just want it to be more transparent, bridging and filling in the gaps.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Mr. CAO, I see that you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I think Carol, said it well. I'll put, at least from my perspective, council's mind at ease, or the councilors that are asking questions on this duplication of service. I don't see it as a duplication of service conversation. And in terms of Councillor Mikulic's question on who identifies the gap, I think that's why we're looking at something like this, or the idea that's been germinated that we're talking about this evening. It is about having the leadership of these organizations at the table, the decision makers who can sit around the table and I think collectively agree to look at what are the gaps in our community and organizing as a collective. Because I think when we look at, and I see Councillor Foster here, I think about the Rotary, or I think about others who are also some of the granting agencies, the town of Lincoln, also a granting agency. There's a lot of fundraising organizations out there, and so understanding the true needs of the community, I think, is a benefit to everyone. The leadership of all of us as institutions and not-for-profit need to come to the table. And I think that's why having a terms of reference of sort or a governance model that works for all of us and that we all buy into will lead us to have the types of productive conversations I think we all want to have. This isn't, in my view, at all about pitting one organization against the other, because I think Employment Help Center and Civic Connect do a lot of similar job training. We're not talking about pitting those two agencies against one another, because I think they serve different populations. And I think those in our community that are in need will be the ones I think that need to be at the forefront of the decisions we make. And so I think if we all come to the table with that type of thought process, I think it'll be a positive.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I just, volunteerism is an interesting, volunteers are very protective of their organization. I just remember with hockey associations, the potential to merge and some wanted it, some didn't want it, and at the end of the day, it didn't occur. And where in this particular case that I'm referencing that I was somewhat involved with, but then it can work fantastically, like with Smithville, Grimsby, and Lincoln hockey. So I just, my thoughts are just that there's respect for each other, like all involved moving forward. Thank you.
If I may respond? So I think you hit something that I think is very important, and it is one of our core values, and that is to operate with integrity and respect. So the whole philosophy, at least what we would be bringing to the table to start this the discussion, it's a community discussion, and the community leadership that comes together will have to see themselves in it and own it. So we may go through this exercise. It is possible we could have all kinds of people wanting to participate, or we might have a finite few, but we won't know unless we try. And I think that sometimes these are one of the opportunities where we can open up the dialogue and see where we want to take it. And we've talked a lot about service provision, whether it's, who does what and can we do better and whatnot. But we can also take a look at what is the root basis of how we are going to operate our organizations. Just as you've gone through different trainings so you understand your fiduciary responsibilities and legislation and protocols, we're governed as a sector by different acts. We have changes happening there. We have our own organizational constitution and bylaws. And so how is it that we can maybe help each other or get the latest research out so that we can build that in? So it can be just about how do we just operate? Are we operating according to what's required from the Charities Act? And then it's a whole other conversation. We could even start with something as innocuous as policy. Policy is so much fun.
Okay, Councillor Mikulic? Okay, thank you. Councillor McPherson, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I don't want to prolong the conversation too much longer, but thank you, Carol, for you and your team and the board for what you do for this community. It's absolutely outstanding. And I just wanted to pick up on what the CAO said, and I was listening to the conversation, back and forth amongst the councilors, and I'm understanding that this is not about eliminating duplication. That's not what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do here. It is about identifying what we don't do in this community and what organizations could pick up and do. So I think that was a real key clarification, because I think that there was some question about things that are happening in the community that are duplicates, and, will that change? And I'm not getting that message that the goal of this, this forum is to, identify duplications and, okay, you will do this and you will do that. That's not what this is about.
The
So, and
conversation
if
is so much bigger than that.
And if I could just
For sure.
say, I am so pleased to see that you're trying to get people to a table to have the conversation, because it absolutely has to start there. And we hope that we can get all of the parties that are in these 31 groups to the table. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Elizabeth, I'd like to thank you very much for coming this evening with members of your board with this very, very important message. Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Carol, thank you very much for bringing your background to the forefront here. To the other board members, thank you for having the vision, for realizing that there's a really hard nut out there that needs to be cracked, and we're just not really getting there. I think about Doreen, when Doreen first decided there needed to be a cupboard with food in it, where furniture was all over her front yard because it was needed. And then Doreen got to the point where she knew that she and her husband couldn't make those decisions anymore, and so it got bigger. So it goes back to exactly what Councillor Russell was saying. It's not a matter of eliminating people, it's a matter of saying, and Mike as well, we need more people in this tent with different expertise. And I can tell you that some of the churches have been investing money. They've made applications. They've been doing determinants of health evaluations. And so you could probably get your number up to about 50 in short order. This is a wonderful idea. And I just look ahead and think in the next 10 to 15 years, what could we do with this? We could probably do a great deal that is going to benefit our community, no question about it. So I guess the question right now, however, for the benefit of council is we've heard this, and we know that there's a mechanism, there's a framework that has to be constructed so that the conversation can begin. So I'm going to look just briefly out of one corner of my eye to Mike. So when you look at this launching an anchor institution roundtable, there's a way to do this. It's well written up. There's a lot written about it actually. And so we need to have a roundtable though to start having a conversation about how that's going to happen. How are we going to get this message out? Who takes the responsibility for that? Who takes the risk, if you will? Because once you put your neck out there and you say that you want to have this conversation, people might think that, oh, well, they want to control everything. And that's not what we've heard here tonight, not at all. So, Mr. CEO, I'm going to ask you that question. What did Hamilton do next? Do you recall?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I do recall, and I think, where it probably needs to start, this was an idea that I think in a lot of ways was germinated with CCWN. So I would suggest maybe the next step, I wouldn't mind sitting down with the team at CCWN, understanding, their vision for this. And then I think, in Hamilton, it was really a report that found itself in front of council as an information report, really highlighting some of these governance type conversations. I think there's an ability to have some regional staff, maybe from public health, also participate. And I am looking at Councillor Foster, and I know he'll be supportive of that, but definitely I'll reach out to my colleagues at the region from an administrative standpoint. So I would say, I think, for tonight, council receives this information. I think in a lot of ways, your comments this evening are the endorsement that CCWN, I believe, is looking for, not having talked to them in great depth in some time. And I think the next step really is to lay out what, the potential composition of a group like this looks like, and maybe reaching out to, as I said, the region, the town to play a role, as well as maybe, a group like the Community Foundation that can also play that facilitative role. And I know Brian is always looking to participate in these types of initiatives. So, I think having even someone as arm's length as Brian in the Community Foundation playing a role in that, I think is beneficial. And if I look at some of the other ones, definitely Hamilton, but ones in, some small towns in the United States that have really done this and done it well. Community foundations and groups like that have also played roles. So I think in terms of next steps, probably some direction for me to sit down with Carol and a few members of our board that are here this evening, and really to flesh out an invitation and some information to put back in front of council for information, and then to really reach out to the community. And I think starting to socialize this with some of these other agencies will be beneficial.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, Counselor, we've been an hour, and so let me first thank all the speakers and CCWN for coming forward and demonstrating their leadership on this matter. We do have a motion, but, and I'm going to ask the clerk to put it up on the screen, because there may be some additional direction that you want to add to this. Okay, here we are. Okay. Just have a quick look at that, counselors, and not just yet, I'm just waiting now. Is there anything that you would like to add in terms of direction? Okay, what I heard, okay, great, thank you very much. Councillor Njima, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the motion's pretty straightforward, and I think we've heard also from the CAO that there'll be further inertia happening and we'll be receiving a report. So I think the motion is probably fine as it is.
Okay, all right. Is everyone satisfied with it as it is? Okay, then I'll, the motion then is that council receive and file for information, the motion is moved by Councillor Njima, seconded by Councillor Reimer, that council receive and file for information the presentation from Community Care of West Niagara regarding Community Care of West Niagara services and 2020 one-year review. Madam Clerk, would you open the vote? Anybody having any trouble with their equipment?
So Councillor Pachariva, I don't see that you have voted as of yet. If you can take yourself off mute and indicate if you are in favor or opposed.
In favor, it's not allowing me to vote.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
Councillor Regima? Okay, if you want to tell me if you are in favor or opposed? Thank you. I can fill that in for you. And I will close the vote. And that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Okay, thank you. Thanks again. And thank you, our members who are joining us virtually. So we can expect to have some further discussion on this. Thank you all. Item number 11 is items for consideration, and we have no items under this section this evening. Moving on to item number 12, motion to approve previous council minutes. We're now considering item 12.1, the council minutes of May 2nd, 2022. Do members of council have any questions? Thanks, Stuart. Good night. I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor Russell that council approve the minutes of the following meetings of the council, special council minutes of May 2nd, 2022. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Counselor Pachariva, can you indicate if you are in favor or opposed?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And Counselor Regima? I'm in favor. And you are in favor also. I'll close the vote. And that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're looking at recommendations from standing committees, and we're considering the following: the Committee of the Whole Workshop Minutes of May 9th, 2022, Committee of the Whole Minutes of May the 11th, 2022, Committee of the Whole Minutes of May 24th, 2022. Do members of council have any questions? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that council approve the following recommendations from standing committee. Committee of the Whole Workshop Minutes of May the 9th, 2022, Committee of the Whole Minutes of May the 11th, 2022, Committee of the Whole Minutes of May 24th, 2022. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
It's not working. We'll do it the old-fashioned way.
Madam Clerk, has everyone voted?
No, I can't actually bring it up on the screen. We're having a technical difficulty, so we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. And we're
Okay.
gonna do a show of hands, and I'm gonna call it out. So,
Okay.
Counselor Russell, you are in favor or opposed? Nope, that's not gonna work. So, in favor. Counselor Regima? In favor. Counselor Brunet? In favor. Perfect. Counselor Pachariva?
In favor.
Perfect. Counselor McPherson? Favor. Counselor Micklick? In favor. Counselor Timmers, you're in favor? In favor. And Counselor Reimer, you're in favor. And Madam Mayor?
Support.
Thank you. That carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. Item number 14 is the notice of motion, and we have none this evening. Item 15 is the report of municipal officers, and we'll begin with item 15.1, memorandum dated May 20th, 2022, from the Director of Legislative Services, Town Clerk, regarding resolution by the Glass Amendment. And I'll ask our Director of Legislative Services, Clerk Julie Kirkelos, to provide comments to this item. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. As there was an original motion brought forward in 2007 The motion did not indicate for spirits or distilleries. It indicated wine and/or beer. So in order to move forward and update this resolution for other alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario applications for By the Glass, it is required that we update this motion, so it's very straightforward. And I've highlighted where that would be, and that would be including wineries and breweries and distilleries in order for manufacturers, limited liquor sales licenses to sell and serve their wine, beer, and spirits. So with manufacturing being conducted within the municipality and it, just moving forward, we do need to capture all of these establishments correctly so that the AGCO can accept their applications. So again, it's a very straightforward, it's just a minor amendment to this original motion, which I'm asking for council to support.
Okay, thank you very much. Do members of council have any questions on this item? It's pretty straightforward. Councillor Mikulik?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I just have a question. I don't recall this, but does the municipality control the size of the glass? I just personally, I don't know if this is a municipal question or if it's a alcohol and gaming question.
Okay, well,
Because when I go to some breweries, I can only get a small glass and I wouldn't mind a bigger glass. So it's just a question I have. If we can make the glasses bigger.
I think your issue of the bigger glass might have to be dealt with separately.
I don't know. I just.
Okay, let's deal with the motion at hand.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Counselor, okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor McPherson that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln supports and endorses the applications of wineries and breweries and distilleries located within the geographic limits of the municipality to obtain by the glass manufacturers limited liquor sales licenses and sell and serve their wine and beer and spirits to patrons for consumption in single servings at their manufacturing sites. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Okay. So e-scribe is not being my friend tonight, so we're going to do this again the old-fashioned way. So those in favor, please raise your hand. And Councillor Pachariva, if you can verbally state your...
In favor.
Okay, and that is, that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Now we're going to move on to item 15.2, which is the mayor's report. I'll just very quickly run down a few items that have occurred between the last council meeting on May the 3rd. The first item I'd like to draw to your attention is in regard to the top aggregate producing municipalities of Ontario and the focus of the executive committee, which is the MPAC assessment, the tax assessments on quarries. There's quite a bit of continued discussion on this matter. You'll see that the TAPMO executive website is now generating a lot more discussion on this matter, and it has become an issue of discussion in some ridings during the provincial election. On May 5th, we raised the Ukrainian flag here in the town of Lincoln at St. Vladimir Park in Beamsville. And it was really a very nice ceremony. We had some live music with the one of the neighborhood residents playing both of the Canadian anthem as well as the Ukraine anthem. A number of us attended the Every Bowl Full event that was part of the fundraising for the Community Care of West Niagara. It was held at Bench Brewing. And I attended with Mayor Jordan at the Peach King Center in Grimsby for a special puck drop a few weeks ago as well. On May the 9th, a number of us attended an Indigenous education program with the Niagara Region Native Center. European Union Day was held in Niagara in Niagara on the Lake. We have raised the European Union flag on that date, and there was a reception. What I would like to note about this reception is that we met a number of ambassadors and consuls general of the European Union countries, and it became a source of very interesting and I would say the kind of information that you would get from people who were very close to a war zone, being able to actually discuss things with a level of I would say, knowledge that we don't necessarily get through our media channels here. Probably the most complex conversation, most informative, was the one that I had with the ambassador of Finland, and but it was quite an interesting experience. I think that any time that we have an opportunity to spend time with ambassadors and consuls general, if we expect to learn anything at all about what's going on in the world, it's worth that time every time that occasion arises. I always find it particularly beneficial. Things are really heating up. They're getting quite exciting around the Canada Games. And so in the last maybe the last month and a half, I've been called to Canada Games Park, as have other members of Regional Council and the mayors, to have photos taken, to be exposed to orientation in terms of what is going to be taking place for the games. The most recent one was last week, and it was a donation of over $650,000 by the Niagara Community Foundation. And so this is all around conditioning of athletes, creating spaces for them, the equipment. It's really quite amazing, the number of both Ontario and Canadian organizations that are going to be on site and that are integral to having a game such as this. It's really becoming quite exciting. I attended the Planning and Economic Development meeting at the region and Corporate Services meeting at the region last week. I also attended a drop-in sew-a-thon that was held by the Creative Bug in town, Heather Hapgood's business, and we were making pillowcases, and the pillowcases are for the children's unit at the Niagara Health System. So that was, it was all young kids that were there. They were doing just a great job. It was really fun to do that. I attended a tender fruit meeting regarding the response, the farmers' and agricultural response to the development charges bylaw, which included the exemptions of agriculture in terms of development charges for agricultural buildings. It was eventually, and Councillor Foster will talk about this, it was overturned later in the week by Regional Council. Great Lakes High School was involved in quite a significant community cleanup all around Rotary Park a week ago, and so I went and met with them, and it's great to see what an international school Great Lakes High School has become, and very interesting to talk to a lot of the students that are coming into the area. I also attended one of the Paul Harris Awards that are being issued and presented throughout the next few weeks, and there will be a couple of others, and one in particular that you will be interested in. I'll keep you up to date on that. On May 17th, I met with a new reporter for the Niagara This Week, the Metroland publication, and it had been a while since we'd had a new reporter in town, and so he was really interested in some of the publications that have been coming out from the town and had a number of questions that he wanted to ask about those. On May the 18th, we had the CAO Kirkopoulos and I attended with I believe, Councillor Pachariva, you were in attendance. I believe Councillor Mikulik, you were in attendance. This is the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators Award of Excellence. This was an award that has been given for leadership to our CAO Kirkopoulos and CAO Schlang from the town of Grimsby, and it's related to the proposal for the pilot project with our fire services joining together. On May 21st, I attended, as I'm sure a number of you who have graduated from Beamsville District Secondary School, the last hurrah was a great weekend, and lots of events taking place that started pretty early in the morning and actually went pretty late that night. And some of the money that was raised was going to be shared, not shared, but it was going to be directed to the new theater at the West Niagara High School. Today, May 30th, was the Mayor Easton's charity golf tournament, and it was an excellent turnout. I want to thank all the councillors who were able to attend and members of staff as well who attended. Great turnout, 168 golfers, which is the maximum that the 20 Valley course will handle. Many sponsors, and I want to thank all of the sponsors, very, very generous, each and every one of you, and also the volunteer board of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, and also the assistant to the mayor's office. Just a tremendous amount of work. I'll be making an announcement in the next few days about where the money will be distributed to in terms of my portion, but there is also a portion that goes to the chamber, and there's also a portion that goes to the Niagara Community Foundation. So there's quite a lot of money that goes back into the community. So that's the end of my report, and I'd like now for us to move on to item 15.3, and I'll call upon Regional Councillor Foster to deliver his Regional Councillor update. Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. And I was very glad to be participating in the golf tournament today. I don't know, I'm going to have a chat with you about the timing on when I was going out today in the middle of the midday heat. Thank you very much. Anyway, my team and I finished off at about 6 o'clock tonight, so sorry I was a little bit late for this meeting. I also want to...
You'll be happy to know, Chair. Councillor Foster, I had nothing to do with it.
That's okay. I'm going to put that on your plate. Anyway, and I also agree with Councillor Mikulik's idea about the glass sizing. I think we should be taking that to the region and making it consistent across Niagara region and in a larger size. So. My report to you tonight, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and Mayor Easton did bring up the DC charges, so I'll talk about them at the tail end of this. Last week we had the new Regional Transit Commission was passed by the Regional Council, and from my view, you have an absolutely excellent board coming into place for this in and across Niagara. I think there was some very, very good choices were made by various municipalities to go and have people in this particular role. And congratulations to Councillor Patrieva, by the way, for being a part of that. It's a big job that's coming up. There's a ton of things have to be thought through with this regional transit and where things are going to be going with it. So I will be watching carefully as a regional council member as to how this is moving along. The AMO conference this year is going to be in Ottawa. And of course the perfect timing. It's right in the middle of the Canada Games as well. I have to attend the AMO meeting as a board director. I will be going up on Saturday morning because I have at the Saturday morning in the middle of the Canada Games. But anyway, I will be up there through to the Tuesday for various meetings. As your staff are aware, council, of course, there will be delegations that are being made. We, of course, don't know who that's going to be with yet. But whatever is turns out and whatever the cabinet ministers are, I'm sure Lincoln will be doing your excellent advocacy on behalf of the town as always being done. I was reading about I guess the speed reduction pilot project that's being looked at through the subdivisions in town. Gotta say, I'm really happy with that. As most of you know, I've been advocating for that for a long time, and I'm really pleased to see your council actually taking the bull by the horns and actually moving down the road with this. So I just want to thank you on a personal level with that. I did in my notes leave some questions to you about Fly Road east of Camden, out past the fire hall. I've been in discussions with a variety of people about that and looking to reduce the speed limit in and through there. And also, and it continues to be a bad intersection, the corner of Cherry and King Street. We have had people lose their lives there, as well as some very bad accidents over the years. So anyway, when you get to your next Public Works meeting, I'm hoping that you guys will have a discussion on this, and it would be great if I could approach Niagara Region with these requests with the backing of Lincoln Council. The DC charges, boy, that was an interesting week. And for those of you that were involved, it was discovered that the new DC charges bylaw that was coming through, for all intents and purposes, was going to be removing the exemption for a wide swath of agriculture buildings. And the discussion point, it was very typical, by the way, of a normal economic report that we receive, both at the town and at the region. But the thinking process was to make these quote unquote subsidies, if you want to put it that way, much more transparent. And so in other words, if there's going to be reductions in what was going on for farm buildings, then it should also be accompanied by a grant. The only thing is that nobody had thought through any of these pieces of the puzzle. We had already gone through the changes to our incentive programs back some time ago. And so a few of us were kind of caught looking at this saying, this isn't very good. So I want to thank staff at the town of Lincoln, Mike, Paul, and others that were very busy with this. I want to thank Mayor Easton as well for her guidance as we were going through this. And for all intents and purposes, we said for DC charges and agriculture, we want status quo as we're moving through with this. And if there's going to be a change to this in the future, there's going to have to be a little bit more careful thinking going into place to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed within that. So, and I think that's about it with that. So anyway, I thank you. That's my report this evening, Mayor Easton.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any questions of any council members to our regional council? All right. I have, yes, just give me one moment here. All right. Councillor Timmers, you have a motion? I do. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. Councillor Foster, thank you so much for bringing this forward on those two areas of concern with speed. They've been a concern for a number of years, both of those exact locations that you've identified, east of the fire station on Fly Road. You know, it's really changed up there a lot. There's a lot more growth. There's new housing. It certainly warrants it. It's something I've been advocating for. and as well as from Victoria Avenue, or Victoria Road, past Cherry Avenue intersection. There was just recently a very, very severe accident at that intersection, and I've been advocating for that location as well. So I'm really, really happy to see this tonight. So I have a motion that I'd like to put forward, Mary Stin.
Go ahead.
That the council for the town of Lincoln support speed reductions in areas of Fly Road east of Camden past the fire hall, and in Vineland west of Victoria Road past Cherry Avenue, and that council for the town of Lincoln requests that regional transportation provide a report back.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Now, are there any questions of council members? There is the motion. There being none? Oh,
Mary
yes,
Stin?
we do need, do you have a seconder?
I do.
Councillor Reimer.
Councillor Reimer.
Thank you. I can barely see this. I'm gonna have to double up on the sizing. Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Timmers, seconded by Councillor Reimer. No questions? Oh, yes, we have. All right. Councillor McPherson? I'm doing my best here. Councillor McPherson, go ahead, because the equipment is clearly not working. You go ahead.
If you could put the motion back up there again, please. So just to understand the motion, is this a motion for council to actually reduce speeds tonight? Is that what we're asking to do?
No.
Because it's, the way you've got it worded there, that council for the town of Lincoln support speed reductions to areas of Fly Road east of Camden, blah, 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 blah.
Mary Easton, I cannot hear Councillor McPherson. I'm just wondering if there's something wrong with his
There
speaker.
is. I'm sorry, I should have been more
Councillor
explicit.
Timmers, can you turn your mic
Sorry.
off?
Okay,
Now do it.
now let me see what I can do.
Okay, there we
Sorry,
are.
we're in
All right,
business.
so yeah, just clarification on the motion. So, so this is a request to go back to the region to ask them for a report showing what are speeds in those areas. Is that what we're asking tonight? I'd be more comfortable if we said that.
Okay, could I just clarify something? We had a discussion last week about reducing to 40 kilometers in certain areas. So I know where you're coming from. Is this an inclusion of that? This is separate? And you're not saying what the reduction should be, you're just
Right.
saying that we request regional transportation to look into this? Okay, does that help?
I'm
Councillor?
good with the ask, if that's what we're asking for, data that would show, you know, what the speeds are on average going through those areas, data showing, you know, the accidents that we've seen, you know, just all the data that we'd be looking for to make an informed decision.
Okay. So you're looking for an addition, for an amendment to that
Well, I
second
guess maybe
sentence?
just a clarification on,
Yeah.
what's that? So the council for the town of Lincoln support speed reductions. That's where I get hung up, is that we're supporting speed reductions as the first statement. So if there is as the councilor said, if there is a problem, and I'm not disputing that at all, it's just how we're wording this motion to go back to the region and ask them for a report showing the data on these two areas, so that we can assess, you know, what does it tell us, and then what do we want to do with it?
Okay.
So, Councillor, may I make a suggestion? That the second part of that motion, that council for the town of Lincoln request that regional transportation provide a report back in regards to the areas of, and we can add that instead?
Sure.
Councillor Timmers, does that satisfy that motion for you?
Could you just repeat that?
Let me take mine off.
I don't know whether, Councillor Timmers, you're actually number 3 in the list, and I'm not going to have any.
Everybody would have to actually
Look,
come out of
everybody
the.
needs to come off.
the-
Councillor Brunet, you need to come off as well, I'm sorry. Councillor Timmers, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Mary Easton. I think the intent of the motion is that we understand that these are areas that are problematic. And we would like the regional transportation to look at it and come back with a report. That's what we're looking for. You know, we're not looking for a full study. We, as the town of Lincoln, are identifying these as problematic areas, in my opinion. That's what we're
Okay.
we're looking for support from regional transportation on this.
All right,
That's what I'm trying to get through.
I'm going to go to the, just hold that thought. Regional Councillor Foster, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Easton. So, first of all, it's my intention to go forward at Public Works to be requesting these changes as they are regional roads. And there is data that's going on with these as well. So, my commentary in this particular report that I provided to you basically said it may be a benefit if you guys believe this is the right thing to be doing. Get on board. I'm happy with that. It makes my case and Sandra's case, I'm sorry, Mary Easton's case, much stronger as we go through this. So, anyway, as I had said, I would have preferred you guys having this discussion at Public Works and then coming back with a more fulsome report, because I hate on the fly motions on a personal level. So, but that's up to you guys to decide that. Thank you.
All right, so we have a couple of options. Councillor, certainly the intention of your motion is sound, no question about it. The context fits with the report brought by the regional councillor. It could be, you could put this on the agenda for infrastructure in order to reach, in order to have the wording refined. Because when it gets to the region, if it's not quite right, it may get lost because you don't have on paper exactly what it is that you're looking for. So if you could just think about that for a moment. Take yourself off, and now I'm going to go, thank you very much. So I'm going to go to Councillor Russell next. Good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Director Graham. Again, or maybe it's just a policy question overall. Do we have the ability to gather our own data on regional roads?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no, we don't. We typically would, work with the region, rely on the region to, collect their own data, have their own data. We can definitely help facilitate that and bring that to their attention. But it would be the road authority who would collect the data and do those assessments, in this case being the region.
Okay, so follow-up. So that would be part of this process. So even after we make this recommendation to the region, they will then likely go out, create a data source, and then, again, measure that against their own policies to see if there's a requirement to augment that speed?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, you're correct, Councillor. They would have to do their own analysis or collect their own data to make a recommendation on a speed reduction proposal.
Okay. And one more follow-up, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
A question then also to Director Graham. There is again, I agree, I think for these two, this area to go forward, but there was always an area on King Street between Lincoln Ave and Durham where it goes from 50 kilometers in an urban area up to 70 for 1.1 kilometers, back down to 50 as you hit Grimsby. Has that ever been brought to the region for their review as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, it has. We've brought that forward to the region. They are evaluating it. I know they did advise that as part of their upgrade, the reconstruction of King Street, that section, they are looking at the speed limits as part of that project. So that was the last update that we had on that.
So no need for it to be included in this as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't think so. They are reviewing that, yes.
Okay, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to turn now to Councillor Brunet. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I did put my hand up quite some time ago. I really wanted to speak to, I guess, what Councillor Foster has alluded to, and not to take anything away from Councillor Timmer's motion that she's presented, but I do believe that it would be appropriate and I think have more value and more teeth if we allowed this to come back to Public Works. Yes, it is a regional road, but as far as I know, within a municipality, we still are directing trucks off of Mountain Street to recommend to go along Fly Road through Camden down to Victoria Avenue. So I do believe we need some collaboration. I don't want to take anything away from Councillor Timmer's motion here. If the data indicates that we need to do this, I think we can do that. I do believe there has been discussion in the past. I do believe, in fairness, that we should allow our Director of Public Works to have some discussion with the region and bring it back to a future Public Works Committee of the Whole so we can deal with this appropriately and then make an appropriate motion to the region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Brunet, I'm sorry about the delay, but we're not working with a full system here tonight. Thank you. Councillor Timmers.
Just a final comment. I think the way that it's worded now is it reflects really what the motion was intended to do. Basically to ask for support from the regional transportation to look at these roads, because they are regional roads. So I just wanted to highlight it and send support from this council to them to really take us serious and take a good look at it. So that's what this motion was intended on my part.
Okay, thank you. And are both the mover and the seconder supportive of the changes in the wording?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer, okay. All right, well then I think we should go forward and, thank you very much, James. Councillor Foster, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. And just, one of the things that, and I hope you guys on Lincoln Council think about as we go through this. It's always extremely important to make sure that the Council of the Town of Lincoln is in support of these safety changes or these changes that are coming into play. And we have seen this many times. We have had, I've listened to a number of discussions at Council on changes that are requested, etc. And the thing is that it is so much better if there is a motion coming from the council to say yes, we're behind what the regional councillors are requesting with this. So, as I said, I think Councillor Timmers and Councillor Rime are on the right track with this. As I said, if there's other issues that are going into play, certainly and if there's other areas, certainly, reminders coming back and through on some of these would certainly be helpful as well. So anyway, thank you for your consideration of this motion tonight.
Thanks very much, Councillor. All right, we have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers, seconded by Councillor Reimer. The Council for the Town of Lincoln requests that regional transportation provide a report back in areas of data analysis for traffic and speed reductions with respect to Fly Road west of Camden, past the Fire Hall, and in Vineland west of Victoria Road, past Cherry Avenue. Any further questions? Oh, we're going to try voting electronically. Madam Clerk has opened the vote.
Get a balloon. This is gonna hopefully work this time. Councillor Pachariva, I'm not sure if you're able to vote. If not, please indicate verbally what your support.
I agree.
Or opposed. Thank you. And, okay, I'll close that vote. And that carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Now, we're moving on now then to, I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Rinjima, and this is in regard to reports of municipal officers, that council receive and file as information the following: mayor's report and regional councillor update. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
And once again, we'll be doing it the old-fashioned way. So for those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Pachariva?
I approve.
And that carries unanimously. You gotta love technology.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor. Item 16 is a motion to consider confidential matters. We have no confidential matters this evening. Item 17 is the motion to approve bylaws. And we have 6 bylaws this evening. And we'll be considering bylaws 2022-38 and 2022-39-Z574 separately due to the declared conflict of interest by Councillor Reimer. So let's do those first. Do members have any questions? I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunei and seconded by Councillor Rinjima that leave be given for to approve the following bylaws. Now I have to make sure I've got these straight. Oh, Councillor Rinjima, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, which, first of all, before
I'm just going to deal with the 2 where the conflict has been identified.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Which
Yeah.
ones were they?
They are 2022-38 and 2022-39-Z574.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to ask that bylaws 2022-36 and 2022-37 be dealt with separately, because I think there may be clarification questions. I know I have at least one on those.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to deal with these. Just a moment.
Can we deal with each one separately, please?
Beg your pardon?
Can we deal with each bylaw separately? Can we deal with each bylaw separately?
Cannot hear you. Sorry.
Can we please deal with each bylaw separately? It'll be a separate vote for each bylaw.
Okay, all right. The clerk has reminded me that we're to deal with these, each one separately. So, that's what's going to happen anyway, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
And we're gonna ask for a mover and a seconder for each one. It's okay. We're going to ask for a mover and a seconder for each one.
All right, thank you. Okay. Let me begin again. We have 6 bylaws this evening. 2 of them have been identified as having a declared conflict of interest by Councillor Reimer. And each one, according to Madam Clerk, should be dealt with separately, and each one will require a mover and a seconder. So I'm going to start with bylaw 2022-38. And since Councillor Brunei and Councillor Rinjima were already listed as being a mover and seconder, I'm going to apply those 2 names with your agreement, councillors, on that item. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote? This is on 2022-38.
No, this is on 2022-36, Madam Mayor. We're dealing with 2022-36 first.
I'm dealing with 2022-38 because Councillor Reimer has declared a conflict.
Okay. And the vote is now open.
Okay, vote is open.
And I'm closing the vote. And that carries.
Okay, thank you. And we're moving on now to 2022-39-Z574, moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Mikulik. If you agree, councillors. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please open the vote.
Mayor Easton?
Thank you.
And I'm closing the vote, and that carries.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Reimer can come back to the table. Now we're dealing with bylaw 2022-36, bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement pursuant to section 37 of the Planning Act 1990 between the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln and NHDG Beamsville Limited, together with any and all mortgages that may be on title at the point of registration of the agreement. Moved by Councillor Brunet, seconded by Councillor Russell. If you're in agreement, councillors. Any questions? Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
I do see Councillor Rajima with her hand up.
Oh, Councillor Manchima, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is about the bottom of page 3 of the PDF of the bylaw under section 18.4.32.3, paragraph C. It says that one of the requirements to have the H removed is that the owner has submitted an approved transportation impact study to the satisfaction of the town and the region, identifying any future required upgrades and validating road upgrades and validating that sufficient road network functionality is currently or planned to be available to accommodate the proposed development. So I just want to unpack that a little bit. The transportation impact study is supposed to identify, and it says, and provide design for any future required upgrades. It also says that the transportation impact study will design any future required upgrades. I'm wondering if someone can please describe the extent of that design work and maybe give me an example of it. If the transportation impact study is supposed to contain a design for future required road upgrades, again, what does that design look like? Is it a preliminary design and then down the road it's up to the town to coordinate and pay for detailed design work? And I'm asking this question because I'm trying to give people in the community an understanding of the extent to which we understand and have planned for traffic changes as a result of this development. I think that if I were to ask the question of myself, my answer would be partially that the design work gets done in tandem with all the work that needs to be done to facilitate the development. And the point of having the hold on there is that when it's finally done and clear that the hold symbol can be removed and the development can move forward. But I still would like to know what we mean when we say that it will contain a design.
Okay, the first thing that I want to do is to make certain that everybody around the table knows exactly what part of this bylaw that we're dealing with. Is everyone able to find the piece that Councillor Njima is discussing? Councillor Njima, could you just turn your microphone off, please, for a moment? Thank you. Councillor Renee? There we go.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I thought we were dealing with 22-36.
We are.
The comments that Councillor Rinjima were referring to, specifically about the H provision, referred to 22-37-Z573.
Yes.
So if we could maybe wait
Yes.
until we get to that one, and then we can
Yes.
have that discussion.
Okay. All right. So we're dealing with 2022-36. Any other questions? All right, Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Closing the vote. And that carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on then to 2022-37-Z573. Which paragraph, Councillor Njima, are you referring to?
I don't think my microphone's on.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's on page 3 of the PDF, and it's
Okay,
C, near the bottom. Paragraph C.
okay. Can you read the first sentence of the paragraph? I'm not dealing with the PDF, so that's why I don't know where you're at.
Okay. It says that the owner, in order to remove an H symbol, one of the conditions is that the owner has submitted an approved transportation impact study to the satisfaction of the town of Lincoln and the region, identifying any future required upgrades and validating that sufficient road network functionality is currently or planned to be available to accommodate the proposed development.
Okay, so for anybody that has a hard copy, it's section C, it's 18.4, 32.3, subsection C. Okay, all right. Now, we're going to go to Mr. Bruder, who's going to have the answer to the question. Go ahead, Mr. Bruder.
Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, so really what's happened so far is, as part of the zoning bylaw amendment process, we heard at committee that, from the consultant that submitted the transportation impact assessment, or the transportation study rather, to support the development at the zoning stage, plus our own additional diligence that we undertook with Dillon Consulting to make sure that the network could handle all of the development in the area. What we're trying to do now is make sure that we afford ourselves the opportunity to coordinate both the detailed design process, i.e. the site plan, for the development, also with the required works that are going to be undertaken along Green Lane. There is going to be reconstruction. We have confirmed that the cross-section, one lane in each direction, and the turn lane can handle the traffic needs, but really it's about making sure we coordinate the design, because there is, a portion obviously across the proposed development's frontage that we will need to coordinate with the town's project that we're undertaking for Green Lane as a whole. So that's really the intent of the holding provision, is to make sure we afford ourselves the opportunity to do that as the design progresses.
Okay, so in the what will the design part of the transportation impact study look like?
Can you direct your question to the chair, please, Councillor?
Madam Chair, through you, as a question of clarification, what will the design portion of the transportation impact study look like?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruder.
Through you, Your Worship, well, there will be a whole design process that the town will have to undertake as part of the entire improvements along Green Lane, the corridor itself, but there will be a submitted transportation study at the site plan stage as well, as is typical with all site plan processes, which will go into informing the design as needed. I suspect it will be a further extension of the transportation study that we've already received. But again, it's not really, it won't deal with the design per se. It's just supposed to be considered in conjunction with the design work that the town will be needing to undertake for the entire corridor.
So it's really preliminary, and it's used in conjunction with the work that we're going to be doing to create the final detailed design. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I just have a quick question, since you asked the question, Councillor Njima. Is the answer specific enough to satisfy your question, which you stated was to provide clarity to the public on the matter of ensuring that there was plenty of planning, advanced planning going on around that area and around this project?
I think so. I think that people want to know sort of, when it's all done, when we've kind of made the decision, what work we'll be doing to alleviate traffic and to accommodate the changes that will be happening to the traffic as a result of the development. And I think kind of the discussion we've had just now really does show that it's an ongoing process, and it happens in tandem with the development and the work,
Right.
with the work that the town does as we move through the process.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bruder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And I'm going to identify Councillor Rinjima, moving by Councillor Rinjima. This is 2022-37-Z573, moved by Councillor Rinjima, if you're in agreement. Seconded by Councillor McPherson, if you're in agreement, Councillor. Bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended of the Town of Lincoln, Utopia West, 5103 Green Lane Road. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Vote is now open. Closing the vote. And that carries.
Okay, thank you. And the next bylaw is 2022-40, a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required and set the rates of taxation for the year 2022, moved by Councillor Russell, seconded by Councillor Pachariva. If you're in agreement, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you open the vote?
Madam Mayor?
Thank you.
And closing the vote. And that carries. Just question, Madam Mayor, did we skip over bylaw 2022-39-Z574? Nope, we voted on that. My apologies. Sorry about that. It's been a busy evening.
Okay, we're moving then to 2022-41. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 89-2000, we're not allowing you to go on holidays anymore. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 89-2000, 89-28, being a bylaw regulating traffic and parking on local municipal roads. This is moved by Councillor Brunet, seconded by Councillor Reimer. In agreement, gentlemen? Councillor Brunet, thank you very much. Would you please open the vote?
And closing the vote. That carries.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Mikulik that leave be given to approve the following bylaws. 2022-38, bylaw to adopt amendment number 11 to the official plan for the Town of Lincoln. And 2022-39-Z574, bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended of the Town of Lincoln, estate winery and short-term accommodations. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
We have Councillor
Oh.
Russell's hand up.
Sorry, Councillor Russell. I see you. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I think those were already voted on.
Oh, my apologies. Oh, sorry, yes. Okay, sorry. So they were. We're on 18 then. Motion to confirm proceedings of the council meeting. We will now confirm the proceedings of the council meeting, and I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Timmers that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2022-42, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Monday, May 30th, 2022, being read a first and second and third time. That bylaw number 2022-44 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Madam Clerk, please open the vote.
Closing the vote. That carries.
Motion is carried. Thank you. The next motion is the motion to adjourn.
We have Councillor Pachariva's hand up, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Oh, yes. Just give me one moment, Councillor. Before I, Councillor Pachariva, are you drawing my attention to the councillor comment section?
Yes, I am, Your Worship, because I didn't know how to come in remotely at the start, so I had a couple items I wanted to share with
You're very
the residents.
subtle. You're very subtle. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So just a reminder that Saturday is the opening of Rotary Park. Festivities begin at 10 a.m. And one of the big things going on at 10 a.m. is our first Lincoln Slow Roll. So Councillor Russell and myself and the rest of our active transportation committee will be there. And we invite you to bring out any form of wheeled transportation, skateboard, rollerblades, bicycle, tricycle, you name it. And we're going to start at the Fleming Center and go on a slow roll. So it's not a race. Take your time and see the connectivity of our trails and parks. So we hope you can join us. There's a sign up online. We ask that you obey the rules of the road and wear a helmet. And our second one has to do with the celebratory open houses of the new Lincoln Pelham Public Library. And the first open house is this Thursday night at the Rittenhouse branch. So from 3 to 7. June 7th is in Fonthill. June 16th, Maple Acre, also in Pelham. And then June 28th at the Fleming Center. Each will feature information, demonstrations, giveaways, and a chance to learn more about becoming a library board member in the next term. We are excited at these opportunities to celebrate with our community, and we hope you will all attend. So thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'll just look around the tables. Anybody else have anything that they would like to draw to our attention? All right, then. I want to thank everyone who's watching this evening for tuning in. And also, I want to remind you that you live in Lincoln, which is definitely, as we are seeing over and over, a community of encouragement, where every citizen strives to be a good neighbor and where children and youth are encouraged to achieve their very best, where business contributes to growth and the sustainability of our community vision as a place to grow, a place to prosper, and a place to belong. The business of this council have been completed. I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima, seconded by Councillor Pachariva, that the council meeting on May the 30th, 2022 be adjourned at 20:28 hours. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote?
Closing the vote.
Motion
And that
is
carries.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much, everyone. This includes our council meeting for the evening. It's quite a change. It's wonderful being back in the chambers, but this is quite a change, and it is quite the moving target, I can tell you, throughout the meeting. As we carry on with this hybrid model. And now we can truly say, drive safely, safe trip home. Thanks, everyone, councilors. Thanks. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thanks, staff.